Hi, this is Kathy Withers. Today's topic is feathers in a nest or in yarn. Fall is the time to clean out your bird nests if you have them, or your bird boxes, in order to make sure that any of the birds that want to hang out during the winter inside a nest will start out with a clean nest because it gets rid of the lice, the bird poop, etc. from previous things. So the first nest I have here is out of one of our smaller boxes, and it's one that we won't use again because we had to take the entire thing apart on the bottom in order to be able to get the nest out. You can see that there's a lot of different stuff in it. But the thing I wanted to really show off was the feathers. And these feathers, knowing the animals and what they come off of, these right here are off of peacocks, and these right here are off of chickens. This is actually off of a female peacock. They're shorter feathers. They're not the fancy things, but that's what you see. This is pretty much a basic nest. You know, you got your box. The box is too deep for them to lay eggs, so they fill it up, create a nest, and it's good to go. Then we have this other one here that I'm not going to pick up because it is so much bigger. This one here was in a bird box that we bought from Wild Birds Unlimited, and that was an awesome, or still is because we're using it, and we went and bought more to replace the first one. The cool thing about that one is that you can move a little latch, lift it up, and you can see inside and see the nest being built. And the birds don't seem to care that we look, and then you can just close it back up, which is kind of cool. So this one here, this one is another peacock feather, but the bulk of these are actually chicken feathers, and it's actually pretty deep down in there. I'm not sure how well you can see because of the shadows and stuff, but it's way down in there. So they build up stuff around it to kind of keep them contained, and you can see that it's very loosely done because pieces kind of start falling out. And I thought that was kind of a cool thing. But when we took this one out, it was like, okay, this is the real thing. This is what I would consider to be a condo. Same basic structure as the other. We couldn't see it until we actually opened it up. But it came out fairly easily, which was kind of cool. But look at this. The whole bottom is filled mostly with dead grass, weeds. Then it has a layer of feathers, and then it has a little bit of a roof. And that was pretty unusual because the birds don't usually do that. And my husband was thinking that maybe a bird was making a second nest, but I don't think that's the case. I think that it was to protect from the wind that came across the top of it, so they filled it in. So that's off of one of my white chickens, and I thought they were kind of cool, and I'm going to see if I can find some way to preserve them because I think it's kind of cool. It's art by itself. So I spin art yarns, and they're kind of cool, and I'm going to bring you over to this little table over here. This is my basic setup for doing it. First of all, I choose the feathers, and if you watched my chicken or my feathered ones from earlier, the chicken ones, remember I talked about all the different kind of feathers that came off of an animal. This all came out of one bag from one chicken. Look at the variety of feathers that you can get. The rest are on the table. This one I think is kind of cool. I love the color of it. So what I do is I actually have a bag, and the bag, and these are all roosters because you can't keep them all. They kind of start killing each other off. This is a bag of feathers off of one rooster, and we don't keep all of the feathers because some of them are way too short to use. Some of them are too nasty. So I basically collect the bulk of them. The thing about the feathers, though, is that they're all different lengths, and you don't get a lot of any of them. So in order to create a feathered yarn that looks somewhat coherent, you have to go through and pick the ones that you want. This is about the size that I'm planning on using. It's about 3.5 to 4 inches long. You'll notice that the center of it, or this portion right here, is relatively small versus the wing feathers that are pretty thick. So depending on what size feather you're using, you're gonna choose different, they're called different things, but all of them kind of, I guess you could say that they're called crimps, jewelry crimps. So here's one that, can't see how well you can see it. It's about the right size for peacock feathers or for the larger feathers, but I actually don't use the larger chicken wing feathers because unless you're going to hang it on the wall, it's not wearable art, and I kind of am focused on wearable art. So they're different sized pieces, so you can compare the sizes here. I source lots of different places, Etsy, eBay, etc., to find them. If you order from China, just know it's going to take forever to get them, so plan ahead. Joann Fabrics and Michaels carry a bunch of different ones. I haven't used any of these yet because they're actually a lot larger than I would want to use. And the other thing is that they come in different colors. And I don't know that I remember seeing any black ones. So I have had silver this size. This is bronze. And this is kind of what they call black, but it's not really black. So it's kind of cool. So what I end up doing is I thread my crimps onto a cotton thread that pulls out the color or kind of matches the roving that I'm going to use. So in this instance, I am going to use a chocolate brown roving, so I'm using a chocolate brown thread. My pieces are all going to be longer than this, but if I put it on top of it, you can kind of tell that it matches somewhat, but it's not matchy-matchy. So the idea is to create something that goes with something else. I have done feathers that are black and white, and I've done them over turquoise. I've done them over black, but I tend to do something different every time. So then to the yarns themselves, right here I have what I call amethyst. And this one here has silky feathers. They're a shade of natural gray. They can actually be over-dyed if I wanted to. And I always spin 1 or 2 singles to go with them so that somebody has something else to use with them. This one here, I did have 2 skeins, and I had more of the purple, but people are looking at color when they buy things, and obviously it's a color that people like because somebody bought one feathered thing, a different person bought the mohair. And so when I have intentions of doing something with it, it's kind of like, okay, I need to make enough of it so that somebody else can come back along and the nest already found its way in there. So I can do something else. Now these are white silkies and they're really cool. You know, people ask, well, how do they hold up when you wash them? Well, just remember that chickens, when they get wet, their feathers don't fall out and they don't end up looking crummy. What they end up doing is preening themselves after getting wet, and the things poof back out. So this one here, after I washed it, all of this looked like a bedraggled, single, skinny thing. And I gave it 1 flick, hung it to dry, and then if there were any feathers that did not fluff up, because I want the yarns to be washable, you take your hand, hold the feather at the part, loosen it up, and you've got the beautiful natural color again. So I have this other one here, and let's see, I can't remember. Yeah, it's also silky feathers, but a different kind from the first. it might have actually been out of the same bag, but the first one had pointy feathers. This one had rounded ones. And my single that went with it just sold, so I'll have to spin another one. And then this one here is a much darker shade of brown, almost black, but it's the natural color. And it's using, from a different bag of feathers, these feathers here. So they're off of black Sussex, and I used gold crimps on this one. And the thing I wanted to show you about the feathers is that using jewelry crimps to use them, to put them into the yarn, works wonders, because you'll notice that no matter which way I turn the yarn, gravity is going to call, and they're going to hang down. So just when you're designing something, you just need to be conscious of that. A lot of people who spin feathered yarns tend to do this little wrap kind of thing. And the unfortunate thing about that is the feathers are not secure. And the second thing is that that little piece right here at the end of the crimp always ends up on the inside pokey, and you got something that you can't wear anymore. So over here I have 3 samples of things that I've made. I have feathers in bags, but I'm not actually selling them. So this one here is my feathered short row alpaca one. It requires a lot of yardage, which is actually the amethyst colored one was designed with that in mind. And, you know, now if somebody made it, you know, you'd have one side with the cool feathers and you'd have to do the other side just straight, because there's not enough yardage there, and the chances of me finding the exact right package of feathers again just kind of doesn't exist. So then here's another one, and it's what I call, have to pull it around and show it because my memory can be short. So this one here, these are buff Orpington, or they're buff colored, and I think they might be silky too. But there are buff Orpingtons that color, and both of them have that. But what I wanted to show you was that I designed a feathered collar, and this collar is exactly the same as that collar right there. And I named this the merino one, and I just called that feathered. And the reason I did that is because this one here was made using a blend of mohair and alpaca, and they do not, those fibers are longer, they don't have any elasticity, so when you make it, it kind of stretches and stays stretched. This one here, merino, it was done with the exact same yardage, same style, but because it's merino, it automatically shrinks up. So they're very easy patterns to follow. Almost everything I use is garter stitch, and it goes to the outside. And then my last thing to kind of show off here is the poncho that I made. And I can show you that a little bit of feathers can go a long way. And these were actually feathers that didn't turn out the way I liked them, but it was cool as an accent thing. So these right here you can see in the wash lost some of the longer pieces of the feather, but it still ended up being cool, and they were actually white to start with, and they looked pitiful, so I ended up dyeing them. I hope you enjoyed this quick little session on feathers. Please check out the shop. This is Kathy Withers at Withers Wool. Shop is open on Fridays and Saturdays, 11 to 2. Please call before you come, because I can kind of be somewhere else out on the farm. And I'm starting shearing, so I could end up doing that instead. So enjoy your day.